Welcome to Rich House Reviews. This is not a podcast or nothing like that, just my commentary. Now, I want to mention that Jim Jones is a New York legend, just like Nas is a New York legend. I want to say that Nas plays a different part of the New York scene than Jim Jones, a different era, excuse me. The era for Jim Jones is a younger era, and I think the older era would be considered for the Nas era. Now, with this dynamic, we're talking about whole careers. Has every album that Nas put out been a classic? No. Has every album that Jim Jones put out been a classic? No. They both have sales, they both have move units, they both have classics and things along them lines.
A young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy.
big hits. How crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era too. Break this down. I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that. I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that.
Now, before we even get into who you pick, what would make you not pick the other one? Like, we got to look at Nas. Nas has had a great career. Recently, he had a revive of his career, and he had like 3 albums in a row that were kind of classics. But Nas also had a lot of albums that were failed production-wise. It was, boring production and overall songs that nobody really connected with. Even if you was a Nas fan, it was hard to be a Nas fan during those years when Nas was trying to figure out what Nas was going to do. There was a time when Nas would just put any beat. I mean, you throw anything. You go like this on the wall, Nas just start rapping. You know what I mean? And I think after a while, he found himself as an artist.
It's a whole different generation. We talking about 94, 93. I was in 11th grade. Nigga, it's 2025. There's a big gap there, you know what I mean? And I want people to understand that. So when Shorty's telling people that, yeah, he's 20-some years old, that goes to show the part of the era that he's in, that I came into light and started going crazy, that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know. But
you know what I mean?
A lot of them know.
Yes.
But it's the era.
Some music.
No,
there's some kids that.
No, I love that.
There's some kids that love hip hop.
20, so I mean,
but your kid, he's your son.
He's your son.
He's your son.
No, but he knows.
My son can't tell you one Nas record.
Jim Jones, I think that when you are in a group, you grow different. Just like Nas. Nas grew as a solo artist, then he grew with the Bravehearts. With Jim Jones, he grew with the group. Then he tried to double back and do a solo career. For me, the first song I heard from him was like Around My Way, but by then we had already been a fan of Cameron and what they was doing over there at Dipset. Now, I feel like when you think of Jim Jones, mixtape era, we would have to use a lot of what Jim Jones did in the mixtape era for this conversation. Album-wise, he definitely put out some EPs and stuff, but the era of Jim Jones album, I can't remember the last Jim Jones album to me that will reign classic. Like, could you guys name 3 classic Jim Jones albums?
You heard? Like, let's keep it a buck here.
Yeah, but
like, let's keep it a buck. You heard? Let's keep it a buck, because you'll bring it up. There must be some type of misconception or what's that word when it comes to Jim Jones and what Jim Jones have done in this game. A lot of these rappers,
we made them take the darkies off.
A lot of these rappers have done a tremendous job, and I take nothing away from them, but they forget I got a hell of a catalog. Me, Jim Jones, myself, gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. Me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones, check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them niggas' entries and shit like that. And I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and the niggas be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit. I'm talking about the industry. I've been putting on. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard them. If you want to go to the billboard entries, pull up Nas billboard entries, then pull up my billboard.
Now, when we go to singles, and then singles that they're featured on, and then solo singles, Jim Jones' probably biggest single will probably be Ballin'. I don't know Nas's biggest single. I would imagine it would be Hate Me Now or Ether. I would assume that would probably be the biggest record on one mic. But even if you compare that, I'm still gonna say that Ballin' has lasted the test of time. I'm not saying that One Mic and these other songs didn't, but Ballin' had more of a, it got out. And he also had way other songs. So I think this argument is deeper than just picking a side. You gotta really look at the elements in the conversation. Like for instance, Jim Jones with Dipset did a lot, like he said. But Jim Jones without Dipset had a good career as well. Nas, I feel like he's had his own career. He didn't really have to worry about so many group things, and not so many group things kind of changed what we looked at for him. So in 2025, who do I think is more relevant for 2025? By far, I'm gonna say Jim Jones. I think if Jim Jones walked to I think he's more relevant to the youngins and the old heads. And Jim Jones would actually make that reference on the Fat Joe and Jada podcast.
He's a rapper and I'm a rapper.
Listen,
no. Let's go statistically.
It feels great.
No, but I want to go statistically because when people be like,
I feel the same way. We all feel the same way.
And forget about the numbers. My numbers back up.
Let me step up to the forefront. Us in the music of hip hop culture have a problem. Is a thing, and there's nothing. The world goes off numbers, but in hip hop, we don't pay enough homage to those before us the correct way, and sometimes it's even myself. So it gets no other genre of music.
See, I like the way Jim Jones put this together. I like the way he made his point. He didn't go on there trying to slander him. He's actually saying, look at my catalog and base me off of that. A lot of people get caught up in the hype. A lot of people get caught up in the the other stuff, but they don't get caught up in the facts. And I think that's what Jim Jones is saying. If you go by the facts and you go by the stats, Jim Jones' career can hold up with Nas on any day. The other thing I respect about Fat Joe and Jada podcast is the conversation wasn't even supposed to go this way, and I think that at first it was supposed to not even go this way. Jada and Fat Joe made an announcement when they first started the interview, and certain things they wanted to talk about, which I respected.
Also, this is a PSA. We're not gonna talk about my brother Styles, and we're not gonna talk about Camp. One, I don't condone that shit, and two, there's a lot more other beautiful shit going on in the world than to rile up some shit.
Is another thing to talk about. Me and Styles are actually brothers, two brothers that love each other.
You don't gotta explain.
I be wanting people to know that. Like
we don't have to get into that because we already know what it is, and we're gonna.
Has Jim Jones done enough? Has Nas done enough? I think Nas is a legend. Has Jim Jones done enough, ladies and gentlemen? Has he done enough? And if he has done enough, has he done enough to reach the level where you can say he's a legend of New York? To me, I think if we're talking lyrics, I think Jimmy is a legend. If we're talking about other stats, I don't know. I don't know too many platinum albums from Jimmy, so he said him in the interview, but I don't know too many. But I want to challenge y'all all in the comments to prove me wrong. In this battle right now, 2025, I'm gonna go with Jim Jones about who's more relevant. Better music, I'm still gonna say Jim Jones, but I'm not shitting on Nas. All right? Make sure y'all subscribe, hit the top bell, all right? And I will see y'all on the next one. I'm out here.